The shock that's tearing apart American life in 2025. In 2025, more than 7,000 grocery and retail stores have closed across the United States. But the most frightening number isn't 7,000. It's the more than 30 million Americans who are now living in food deserts, where the nearest supermarket is 10 and 20 miles away, and food prices are rising faster than the income of any age group, especially those over 50. You may not feel this clearly, until one day you wake up and realize the familiar supermarket has locked its doors. Your grocery bill is 40% higher, and you have to drive twice as far just to buy a few basic items. Behind those closed doors is a cold truth. America's grocery system is cracking from the smallest chains to the giants once believed to be unshakable. And the most shocking part? The chain ranked number 1 in this video has closed more than 390 stores because of losses, and another 404 stores because of a disaster no one could believe. Which chain do you think could take 2 consecutive blows like that and still survive? Watch until the end, because the truth behind it will make you rethink the entire American grocery system in 2025. 10. Kroger, the giant that has started to shrink its own breath. Kroger was once considered the backbone of the American grocery industry. More than 140 years of existence, thousands of stores across states, and in many families over 50, Kroger is almost tied to memories of warm dinners. But in 2025, for the first time in decades, a strange sign appeared. This giant has begun to step back. In its latest report, Kroger confirmed it will close about 60 stores over the next 18 months. The traditional supermarket model is becoming too burdensome in an economy that is changing faster than any business plan. Inside that enormous system, you can feel the tension. Labor costs rise every quarter. Fuel prices and transportation chains surge like a prolonged fever. The refrigerated trucks that deliver goods every day now cost more than the average profit of a single store. And the profit margin of this industry, which hovers only around 1 to 3%, makes any small fluctuation become a cut into earnings. But the biggest problem is not the cost. It is the customers. Americans, especially the middle-income group and older adults, are changing their shopping habits quietly but forcefully. They do not visit Kroger as often as before, not because they dislike it, but because there are more fitting options. Walmart is cheaper, Aldi is faster, Dollar General is closer, Costco is better for long-term savings. Kroger is being pushed into the middle, a space with no clear identity, not the cheapest, not the fastest, not the most cost-effective. In retail, an ambiguous position can sometimes be more dangerous than losing outright. Meanwhile, the lifeline Kroger is counting on, the merger with Albertsons, is still hanging in the air due to antitrust investigations. They cannot move forward, and they cannot move back. A gigantic system suddenly becomes a ship that has to throw cargo overboard just to avoid sinking. But the biggest impact doesn't lie on the balance sheet. It lies on the map of neighborhoods. Once a Kroger store closes, the gap it leaves behind is not small. There are towns where Kroger is the only supermarket with full pharmacy service, fresh food, and acceptable prices. When the shutters come down, older people have to drive an extra 20 minutes just to buy a few basic items. Employees who have worked for more than 10 years suddenly lose their jobs. The nearby coffee shops, pharmacies, and laundromats quietly lose customers as well. There is no loud explosion. There is no flood of announcements. It's simply that one day, people drive to their familiar Kroger and see an empty parking lot, the doors locked, and a store closing sign swaying in the wind. Kroger has not collapsed. but it is changing in a way that no one thought could ever happen. A giant shrinking to survive. And when the strongest begins to retreat, that says a lot about the American grocery market in 2025. If you feel that what's happening with these grocery chains is no longer just interesting, hit subscribe. Because this is only the beginning of the bigger disruptions being updated. And you deserve to be informed early, clearly, without sugarcoating. 9. Albertsons. The long slide of a monument that seemed it could never fall. There are names so big that people assume they're immune to economic storms. Albertsons is one of them. Yet 2025 reveals a truth that has stunned the entire retail industry. An empire that owns familiar brands like Safeway, Vons, Jewel Osco, is entering the most fragile phase of its existence. Steve Jobs once said something that many corporations ignore until it's too late. If you don't cannibalize yourself, someone else will. For Albertsons, that is happening right before their eyes, and the market itself is biting back at them. The most shocking part is Rapid Rating's financial assessment. Albertsons is classified as very high risk of default. A warning almost no one believed would ever fall on a corporation that has existed for nearly 90 years. But the numbers don't lie. A $565 million shortfall in its pension fund has left tens of thousands of employees terrified about their own future. In many areas of California, Washington, and Nevada, people began noticing unusual signs months before the media covered it. Shelves emptying faster, products not being restocked in time, and longtime employees whispering that the store isn't what it used to be. A brand once seen as a stable choice for families is now associated with a sense of unease. The most ironic part, the multi-billion-dollar merger with Kroger, expected to be the lifeline helping both companies survive brutal competition, has been blocked by antitrust regulators. Instead of pulling them to safety, it leaves Albertsons stuck in a half-living, half-dying state, not strong enough to stand alone, but not allowed to merge to regain its strength. The weakening of Albertsons brings an unexpected consequence. When a major grocery chain trembles, the entire surrounding community also wobbles. Older adults lose their familiar shopping spot, nearby small shops lose customers, and neighborhoods that depend on Albertsons as their main food source suddenly become grocery deserts. What shocks people isn't the fact that a few stores have closed. It is the truth that even brands once believed to be unshakable are now faltering in an increasingly unpredictable America. If Albertsons, one of the 3 largest grocery chains in the country, is struggling this badly, then the bigger question is, how much longer can people trust this system? 8. Safeway. When a long-standing brand steps into a cold wind zone, there is one thing that many people over 50 on the West Coast openly acknowledge. For many years, Safeway felt like an inseparable part of everyday life. From the familiar red club card to the morning stops to buy warm bread, everyone thought Safeway would always be there. But 2025 is showing the opposite. I once met an elderly woman in Sacramento who said something I never forgot. Safeway is where I know every employee's face. Walmart is not. And that very sense of familiarity is what makes Safeway's weakening feel even more painful. The truth is that Safeway is being directly affected by the headache called Albertsons. When the parent company is unstable, Safeway cannot stay outside of it. Many stores in California, Washington, and Oregon have reduced inventory, cut hours, and even closed quietly. What's frightening is that there is no major announcement. People only find out when they arrive and see an empty parking lot. Safeway is not losing because of a lack of customers. It is losing because it is trapped inside a heavy system that it can no longer control. Antitrust regulations have stalled the merger. Outdated supply chains are causing bottlenecks, and labor costs on the West Coast are rising faster than revenue. Bit by bit, Safeway is being eroded. The sadness lies in this. Safeway once represented the convenience of the 20th century, but is now falling behind the speed of the 21st. The app is slow. The prices are not as competitive as Winco or Walmart, while younger people choose Trader Joe's for affordability, and older adults choose Costco for long-term savings. Safeway is left in the middle, like a good friend who is simply too slow in a new race. I once thought Safeway would hold on for a few more decades, but seeing the stores gradually empty, I began to realize even iconic brands have their limits. And perhaps the most concerning part is this. Many small communities are losing the only supermarket that helps them maintain their daily rhythm. Safeway is changing in a way no one wants. But the real story begins when people speak about their own experiences. Where you live, does Safeway still keep its old vitality? Or have you also started to notice strange changes? Share it in the comments, because your story is the clearest picture of what is happening. 7. Amazon Fresh. The future of automation stumbled right at its own doorstep. When Amazon Fresh launched, many people believed the grocery industry had turned a new page. You only needed to raise your hand to open the door, pick up a few items, and walk out. No checkout counters, no lines, no need to say a word. A vision so sleek it seemed impossible to fail. But then 2025 revealed something hard to believe. Those stores of the future are shutting down one after another. What startles people is not the closure itself, but the lingering question. How could a tech giant with an almost unlimited wallet fail in what appears to be the simplest field, selling food? The answer lies in details no one noticed at first. The Just Walk Out technology requires a system of cameras and sensors costing millions of dollars for each store, while grocery profit margins are only a few %. The smarter it is, the more expensive it becomes, and the more expensive it becomes, the easier it is to lose money. I once visited an Amazon Fresh store in Woodland Hills. Everything looked perfect until you looked at the produce section. Sensors can't stop vegetables from wilting. AI can't replace an employee who says, "Ma'am, the apples are really good this week." A very small gap, but one that technology cannot fill. Amazon can deliver a $600 refrigerator to your doorstep within 24 hours, but struggles with a $3 salad pack. Human habits aren't easily reprogrammed. Older adults still want to ask employees questions. Middle-aged shoppers still want to check expiration dates. Young people still want a cheaper price than Trader Joe's. Amazon Fresh isn't losing because it lacks technology. It's losing because it misunderstood something that seems simple. Buying food is an emotional behavior, not an algorithm. When a corporation that once changed how the entire world shops has to shrink its own grocery chain, it's not just a business failure. It's a major signal of what lies ahead for the American grocery industry. In your area, has any Amazon Fresh closed yet? How did you feel about that cashier-free experience? Share your story, because real-life experiences are the clearest evidence of the changes taking place. 6. Save a lot. When even the supermarket for the poor can no longer hold on, Save a Lot has closed. So where will poor people go? A short comment, but it sounds like the sigh of an entire America in 2025. Save a Lot exists for one reason. It sells things that low-income people can afford. When a discount chain collapses, it's no longer a business issue. It's a social warning. In 2025, Save a Lot continues shrinking its system after having already sold or closed more than 300 stores over the past decade. Locations in Missouri, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana have seen shelves thinning day by day. And then one morning, the store closing sign is hung up with no explanation. The problem is not the customers. Save-A-Lot's customers have never been few. They are simply too poor to keep the chain alive. Competitors that are cheap but hyper-efficient, like Dollar General, Aldi, and Walmart Neighborhood Market, have turned low cost into a profit-grinding machine. Save-A-Lot, with its fragmented franchise model, weak logistics, and thin capital, doesn't have the breadth to run at the same speed. In the end, what makes many experts shudder is this: when a grocery chain for the poor can't survive, it means the living conditions of the working class are worse than the numbers in the reports. A discount supermarket closing doesn't just create a food desert. It creates a hope desert, where people are left only with expensive options they cannot afford. In your area, is Save-A-Lot still operating? If you're over 50 and have to count every dollar for housing, food, and daily expenses, don't miss analyses like this. Hit like and subscribe so every new video becomes an early warning before you make important decisions for yourself and your family. 5. Winn-Dixie, a silent earthquake in the American South. In March 2025, the Southern retail map witnessed a shock. Southeastern grocers confirmed that more Winn-Dixie stores will permanently close this year. Not a rumor, not system optimization, real closures, and happening so fast that many neighborhoods didn't have time to prepare. Winn-Dixie was once the soul of Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. A brand present for nearly 100 years, so familiar that many believed it would last forever. But 2025 proves the opposite. Even a local icon cannot escape the storm hitting the grocery market. What brought this chain down? First is the pressure of debt and operating costs rising uncontrollably. Winn-Dixie has faced the highest transportation bills in its history, wages increasing steadily due to state laws, while the purchasing power of Southern residents has dropped sharply after 3 years of prolonged inflation. Winn-Dixie has no price advantage, no speed advantage, and no brand advantage anymore, as customers become more practical. More importantly, their system has become too old to run in a new era. Many stores lack modern POS technology. Restocking processes are slow. Inventory systems are inconsistent, all forming a burden that makes each store closure feel like a piece of Southern memory being erased. When the red store closing signs began to appear, many people finally realized Winn-Dixie is not just a supermarket. It is the rhythm of the community. And now that rhythm is breaking apart. Where you live, has any Winn-Dixie disappeared? When did you first notice this change starting? Share your thoughts so we can clearly see how the new map of the South is shifting. 4. Sprouts Farmers Market. When one viewer's comment exposed the entire truth. I want to eat healthy, but I can't afford to be healthy anymore. A 58-year-old viewer left that comment under the previous video, and it unintentionally summed up exactly the tragedy of Sprouts Farmers Market in 2025. Sprouts was once the symbol for Americans who wanted to live clean without paying Whole Foods prices. But when inflation drags on, every ideal becomes expensive. A $9 box of strawberries, $5 greens, organic meat twice the price of regular supermarkets. That's the price level that forces many middle-class families to turn away. In 2025, Sprouts began shrinking its system in California, Colorado, Arizona, and New York. Many stores had their signs removed within 1 to 2 days. No media campaign, no preparation. They simply disappeared from the neighborhood. Sprouts is both expensive and not worth it enough. The harsh truth is this: Sprouts isn't failing because of quality. It's failing because in 2025, eating clean is no longer an easy choice. It has become a luxury investment for millions of Americans. And when consumers have to choose between eating clean and paying the electric bill, they don't need much time to decide. Where you live, is Sprouts reducing fresh produce, cutting staff, or has it already shut down? Share your thoughts, because your observations are what show most clearly where Sprouts is truly heading. 3. Lucky's Market. When a dream of affordable organic is crushed by reality, no one expected a chain once considered the friendlier version of Trader Joe's to fall this quickly. Yet in 2025, Lucky's Market is becoming one of the most shocking collapses for consumers. Lucky's was once the perfect choice for those who wanted to eat healthy without paying Whole Foods prices. Low prices, a cozy atmosphere, clean products, all of it made many families see it as a familiar stop. But the very things that once created its appeal became a burden when the cost of producing organic food skyrocketed. In late 2024 and early 2025, Lucky's recorded double-digit revenue declines, and numerous stores in Colorado, Florida, and Ohio shut down within just a few weeks. A brand once praised as the future of affordable clean food is now disappearing at the speed of a business with no way out. The deeper issue lies in structure. Lucky's operated with extremely thin profit margins, while its competitors had already changed the entire game. Trader Joe's optimizes costs to a level few rivals can match. Whole Foods has Amazon backing it. Sprouts holds a broader market share. Lucky's stands alone, and alone is not enough. The bitter truth is that their model used to be right. But in 2025, right is no longer enough. Americans buy food based on their wallets, not their ideals. And when essential costs rise, affordable organic becomes a dream that no longer fits the times. Lucky's Market didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because it was built for a wealthier America than the America that exists today. Where you live, do you still see any Lucky's stores operating? Do you think the affordable organic model still has a future? Share your thoughts. 2. Piggly Wiggly. A 108-year-old icon fading away in silence. In 1916, Piggly Wiggly opened the first era of self-service shopping in America. In 2025, the very pioneer is struggling the most in the race it once created. Piggly Wiggly is not an ordinary chain. It is the first supermarket that allowed customers to push their own carts and pick their own items, a model that later became the global standard. But a century later, that icon is being swept off the retail map, one store at a time. No noise, no commotion, just slowly disappearing. From 2022 to 2025, many stores in South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Mississippi were forced to close because revenue was not enough to cover operating costs. Locations that were once bustling in the 80s and 90s now sit empty. The Mr. Pig signs taken down, replaced by independent shops, or left vacant for months. The reason is no longer a secret. Piggly Wiggly operates under an outdated franchise model, weak logistics, outdated technology, and is completely unable to compete with Walmart's expansion speed or Aldi's rock-bottom prices. When the entire industry shifts to optimizing every dollar, a system that relies too heavily on tradition has no way to survive. What pains many people most is not that Piggly Wiggly is closing, but the way it disappears, slowly, steadily, and with no one truly noticing the final day. No announcement, no goodbye. Just one morning, the familiar pink sign is no longer hanging at the end of the street. And here is the frightening question. If a chain that once created the future of the grocery industry cannot survive, then who still has enough strength to stand in this economic storm? In the state where you live, is there any Piggly Wiggly still operating? Leave a comment. The real-world map always says more than any report. 1. Family Dollar. When a true disaster swallows an entire national chain, what drags Family Dollar to the bottom in 2025 is a disaster never seen before in the history of the American grocery industry. In less than 3 years, Family Dollar has had to close 390 stores due to losses and restructuring. But the most devastating blow came from something no one could have imagined: a massive rodent infestation that forced 404 stores to shut down immediately under federal order. 404 stores. Not many companies can survive a number like that. This is not just an operational failure. It is a sign that the entire system is rotting from the inside. When federal inspectors entered the distribution center in Arkansas in 2022-2023, they documented horrifying evidence: gnawed food, chewed through packaging, rodent waste spreading onto merchandise. The result was that Family Dollar had to recall more than 1,000 items, one of the largest recalls ever to occur in the discount retail industry. That shock carried into 2024-2025, causing the chain to lose customer trust, lose supplier contracts, and lose the ability to recover. Even worse, Family Dollar primarily serves the poor, people living in low-income areas, places where Dollar General and Walmart Neighborhood Market haven't reached. When Family Dollar falls, they don't just lose a store, they lose the only affordable shopping option within several miles. That is why Family Dollar stands at number 1, not because it is the biggest, but because its collapse creates the largest social void. And the final question for you is this: if even Family Dollar cannot stand, what future is left for America's poor? We've just gone through 10 grocery chains that are leaving America faster than anyone can realize. But the frightening part isn't the store closures. It's the empty spaces they leave behind in daily life. More expensive food, longer drives, and fewer choices. If you're witnessing this change right in your own neighborhood, leave a comment, because your story is the most accurate picture of America in 2025. And if you want to stay updated on the next shifts in this economy, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video.